And today we have the fabulous host joining us at Amin F. I'm so sorry. I mentioned my tongue, right? Eftekhar. Did I say
That's
it right?
close enough. That's good. I take it.
Okay. With a name like Jimena, I should know better how to pronounce other people's names because I know what it's like. But we'll be talking about Agile Games on Discord. Amin is an Agile trainer and Scrum Master with extensive experience growing highly effective cross-functional teams who adapted the customer-centric mindset and decentralized decision-making, creating software products through multiple frameworks, as well as implementing Agile games in Agile ceremonies for more enhanced team responses. I'm glad I had that written down because otherwise, who knows what I would have said. So, but yeah, everybody welcome Amin. Let's get started. I will stop share so we can.
Jimena, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is everybody able to see my screen?
We can, yes.
So hello, everybody. Glad to have everybody joining us here. Looks like we have folks from all around the world. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good past midnight. So wherever you are, thanks for joining and going over our presentation here for Agile Games on Discord. So I'll just briefly gonna go a little bit introducing myself. Just a little self-introduction as where I came. I mean, Jimena did a wonderful job giving a little bit of my background. I am actually just a coach, teacher, practitioner, and a speaker focused on high performance teams. So I try different methods of delivery, working along with the teams to provide them with the whole customer-centric mindset, as well as being self-organized and cross-functional. This is, I've implemented certain strategies that work with them. Each one of them is actually Agile games that work along the way. I'll be introducing some of those Agile games along with you guys and a platform called Discord and how we actually got to Discord and what the benefits of it toward Agile games. From my side, as well as I have several years of experience in Agile environments on enhancing teams performance via Agile frameworks while implementing Agile games and the best practices I have learned along the way. Just like you guys see joining, I've always been part of the Agile Austin, as well as 7 different type of meetings and learning from along as the community together. So as we moving on to next, going over from my background to what Agile games are and a standard approach. So some of us may be familiar with the standard approaches for Scrum. Certainly we have the ceremonies, we have the sprint planning, we have backlog refinement, we're doing our stand-ups on daily, we do have a sprint review and sprint retrospective. But certain aspect we going along, we harnessing the change along the way with the team. Some of them might come from a different background, or some of them might have an Agile experience, but different frameworks. So all these kind of things we're working along with our teams. Now, going that process is fantastic. We like it, but there's always, we can adapt certain type of ways to understanding what we were going on, what we're working on, and making it a little more enjoyable. There's nothing wrong with making things enjoyable. So one thing I'd like to point out from my perspective is basketball games. So we hear about basketball games, they're playing games. We call them playing games. They have a match coming up. If anybody who's watching NBA games, it's any games actually, it can't be just basketball. I'm just using basketball as an example for now. So for basketball that goes through, we actually seeing them playing games. It seems we call it's enjoyable. We've seen them, they're actually smiling, they're running around and they're committing to their goals. We're seeing that. And the fact is we're calling it a game or we're calling it playing, it seems more easy on the mind. That's what actually put a little bit less pressure on yourself. But if you were saying like, oh, let's go, they're working basketball. They're working basketball and they're committing to their goals. So if we make it in more professional, more formal way, it's changeable. Once we say the different words such as playing games and that comes along, we can see how fun it adds funtivity, I would call it, to the process. So for basketball professionals, as they get into the NBA, it's not an easy process. It's not at all. There's a lot of training that they go through. They constantly commit training every single day. The NBA qualifications, if you look at what the qualifications to become an NBA player, it's a lot of process. It's a lot of work. But at the same time, we can consider being an enjoyment. What they're going process, what they've been working on, which actually the word Scrum comes from, which is Scrum is a huddle that rugby teams they actually have before they get to their process, so which actually comes from a sport as well. So that's a part that I want to point out, that's cognitive way that goes through it. We can see how fun it is. We applying fun to it, just like same way we can apply to Scrum to our Agile methodology, as well as to the frameworks we're working with our teams. There is a cognitive learning and there is a brain stimulation learning. So cognitive learning is basically going through process of learning things along the way, such as the students looking at is in math, or if you're looking at we all as students, but pointing out like lower younger generations, or they're going through, even we actually did when going through our high school, learning math, learning history, learning all these educations are provided to us. If you spend 15 minutes on math, it's seems a lot of process, but you can spend 2 hours playing video games, maybe even more, actually even longer than that. I heard from other folks that you play a lot longer because the enjoyment, the stimulation that your brain is taking and their process that you're going through. So that doesn't seem like work, which actually you're committing to what you're doing for the video game. But since that enjoyment, that process is going, our brain try to change that and try to let it be going for longer, which in psychology we call flow, which if you get into the process of flow, you're enjoying what you're doing, you don't sense time. So you just keep letting it go. So this is why when we committing to certain aspects such as math or any different type of work we committing, our brain sometimes try to get a way to stimulate itself, such as we have procrastination, or sometimes we have folks listening to music as we're going through any process, any emotional responses they would hear in the background. So those are stimulation we still capture along the way to keep our brain stimulated and cognitive and keep the learning processes going. So that's been going from our side of learning aspect, as well as going to learning other factors, which is fun. Actually, people who saying they're very good at certain aspect, they're learning along the way faster. It's how they can stimulate their brain and learning along the way too. What they can turn it into more fun, more like games for themselves, try to change the load factors. If you look up the ways how someone would memorize a long range of numbers, they tend to, I forgot actually the name of that to be specific, but they use a technique that they turn the numbers into words that actually make sense for them and be able to memorize the entire number. So for instance, if you have 20-digit number and they want to memorize that 20 digits, they would turn that 20 digits into a story. That's how they would be able to memorize it. That's how they get very good at memorizing their side. So this would be the same way as stimulating brain. We are more of emotional beings rather than being logical beings. And moving on to next, for now, next slide. And this is a little fun we have playing basketball and dunking while learning along the way. So going over our games types. So we have a lot of different games when it comes to our ceremonies, into our different type of, even outside our ceremonies, sometimes we have a team building exercises. We can use different type of games and be able to interact with one another. It's best way we be able to connect with and be able to get the process a little bit more in a funner way. It's a little more stimulating way. So before the games we had before the pandemic, our games were mostly like a board games or playing cards. That's how we were working on, just the same way we were doing planning poker, or we were playing any other type of games we had to be able to get things a little bit moving. So I actually included certain type of games I can kind of think of right off my head. That was actually one of them I was pointing out was Orbiting Planet, Battleship, Starfish, Sun, Elephant, Moon. What were they thinking? Resort Brochure, Scavenger Hunt, which is actually, that's one I haven't seen a scavenger hunt to be played outside Discord, which actually it is played outside Discord. I mean, within the Agile Games from my own experience, but I've seen it how being played in Discord. So that's the part that actually we've been using. The games are varies a lot more. The games are getting a little more different, but the games are be able to teach you what needs to be done. Such as I'm going to be pointing out one of the pointers about Battleship. I'm not sure if anyone had experience with that Agile Battleship. It's a feedback loop game. So you're actually just training the team what the feedback loop is and how actually we can take advantage of feedback loop. So Battleship, the way we play, we selecting certain type of cells or we selecting certain type of spots. And then based on those, we will later on find out if we hit the placed battleships on the other opponent. So once we play that game, this would be played between two individuals. These individuals, they're setting up their ships in the different spots on the grid. And once they do, then the other player has to guess where the ships are located by selecting those spots. We're not able to do that. Not the perfect person to be able to do that to find out where the ships are. So what we do, we play along the way, and based on feedback we get. So we play multiple times. And when we do, we play multiple times. We can, based on what we're learning, if the cells, if the spots we point out initially, and they hit the ship, we'll be able to analyze that and decide what the next step is, what it is, based on the analyzation. So that's where we actually work on Battleship game to provide and help us for a little more details on how the game's being set up. One of the places that I know they're providing a lot of Agile games you guys can look up, it's called tastycupcakes.org. That's one of the websites that been held with the general committee members. Sorry, I just couldn't remember the name for the committee members. They're joining along the way and providing all these games, anything that comes along. So most of them are being provided to have some rules, what the rules are, how you can play them along the way. It's very beneficial for the teams, and team responses you get from the teams, it gets more funner for them and they get a little more involved and they tell you how the experience went, they can learn from it. And it doesn't seem like a progress if you implement this with the teams. It's actually for everybody in the team. They can consider in a fun way to understand in a story way what the purpose is, and based on that purpose, how do we implement that into our progress or our processes as we go forward. So as we have all these fun games we go in, there's this always learning process to it too. It doesn't, every time I have experience working along these with my teams, didn't seem anybody who hold back, anybody who would actually have any opinion. It makes them low in a way to help them find out where they're stuck at, and they can explain a little more. They can jump in the middle. Even some folks, it gets them in the process to come forward, give out details, especially for retrospective. We actually, most of these are the games I include are part of the retrospective, and get them a little more involved in that process, what the story is, what they want to work on. So that's a whole process that's been going from the game side. One thing I want to point out as well, from the games we're working along with the teams, one of the games I want to point out is, I was pointing out the Battleship, and the other one is Starfish. A Starfish is the same way that's actually providing more details. I'll be actually providing that Starfish on in another slide, how we can implement that along the way. So we getting a little more of the teams to respond and what their process has been so far. Moving on to the next slide. So ever since pandemic, most of us have been working from home, which is, we also have this meeting right now virtually as well. So games have been more implemented into online. So we're playing games in online versions. There are a lot of more games have folks that have helped to create the cards, to create the themes, how to be able to use those for our online meetings. So once we have our ceremonies, we include those, we can provide those. So the one we have on the left is the feedback loop I was talking about regarding the Battleship. That's the one from Battleship. And the other one we have is, I believe if I'm not mistaken, that's a ballpoint game. And the other one we have is orbiting planets. So all these games, you can actually be able to play them along. And they're one of the factors you can use with these games. They can, as we working virtually, they can provide their cards, they can implement themselves, and it's actually getting the teams a little bit more responsive and talking to their respective part of the game as well as the rules we're respecting. We have a lot more games that's been going. Actually, there is. I know I point out a few. There's a lot more. There's a lot of lists. I can't point out all of them, every single one of them, but they can be used for sprint planning. I mean, the most famous one is planning poker, and we have a few other ones. Even for stand-ups, I've seen they've been implemented. Where stand-ups are more lighter ones to actually come across. It's a lot more lighter. It's not nothing taking it complicated or different rules. It's just being explained very quick, and then teams can be picked up because our process is still moving forward and completing our side and moving toward that satisfactory product we're trying to build. We just don't want to be more focused on the games alone too. I know some people will focus on how do I get these games done? How do I work on these games along the way? It just sounds like a silly way to go, but I can't be focused on my side. These are the questions you might came across that teams would ask, but really the game is still the same way we're doing it. We're just changing the way we're doing it. It's still the same output. It's still the same way we're going, and still the same way we're responding to how we actually going through our meeting. It's just we're changing it a little bit in a different way, but we're still following the same way we're going. And moving on to the next slide. So we have a different type of Teams meetings we actually use. We use different tools. We use different messaging tools. So our messaging tools, we've used most of the common ones that's been used in the organizations, or the common ones I'm pointing out. I'm sure there's a lot more than messaging tools that's been used. It's the Microsoft Teams, as well as Slack, and we have Google Chat, and we have also Flick. That's another one that's being used, I heard. And the one actually I'm going to talk about is Discord. So the ones actually I pointed out, how do we play online? Can we play it in different games? Absolutely. It can be played anywhere you prefer. Even in Zoom meetings, it can be arranged and played, and it can be played on Microsoft Teams. Any type of games actually having it. They weren't adjusted in a way to be able to be played around the messaging applications, messaging tools we have. They're being more provided to be a way that can be played anywhere. Even we actually having it all of us together live physically all of us around together, we can still play the games online too. We're just sharing our laptops and we're still right next to each other. So the ones actually being used with Microsoft Teams, Slack, Google Chat, as well as Flick and any type of messages, Skype, Facebook Messenger. I heard a lot of different type to point out to me. But it comes down to one, that's Discord. So why we actually wanted to use Discord over these type of applications we have. So Discord, I'm actually providing a low image for you guys here. This is our servers. I've actually been holding a server regarding Agile Games, and we have folks around the globe that joined us on the Discord server with us. We usually ask questions, if anything that's been going on. It's a different community we provided. So the great thing about Discord's server, you can build a server and build up and generate it and populate it with your teams or the folks you actually want to play games. Or it can be just for games. I'm actually going to go step back a little bit and describe what Discord in general is. Discord was built originally for gamers. So it's actually a messaging tool that's being built for gamers. So when they're playing games, they can connect with one another and they'll be able to communicate while playing the games. They're playing video games. There is a lot of different video games that can implement it with Teams. Now, one of the benefits of that is once you created the server, you can actually, it's very flexible. It's very easy, flexible. You'll be able to change the rooms you can provide. You can provide the rooms just specifically for voice, or you can provide certain rooms specifically for chatting, as well as certain rules you can provide along the way on your server. So what the rules are, how do we play this game, how do we go forward? It's completely flexible, and one of the great benefits of that is it's free too. So we can definitely get connected on our server on the Discord, talk to one another, and it's actually, there is no cost to that. We can't even go for hours compared to Zoom. Which actually, if you wanted to play it for free, want to use it for free, it's actually 45 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. But after 45 minutes, then you actually end your call. But Discord, you can go for hours and playing it. There is no cost to it. There is no advertisement either. There is no pop-ups, anything that would come up on the Discord chat as you're using with the teams, as you're coming along. There is no pop-ups. There is nothing. There is no advertisement on it either. How do they generate money? Actually, before I even go to the Discord part, I do not work for Discord. Just pointing out for you guys, I'm been using it as a tool myself, and how we actually work along with everybody. So that's been I've been including myself too, and providing more details in that area as far as Discord goes. But I do not work for them. I'm not doing an advertisement for you guys. I'm just letting you guys know what the tools I've been using and how we've been using it with the teams. And once you set up the rules, there's one of the great benefit of these using the Discord, aside from being free as well as no advertisement, it's the bots. They do have more generated bots that you can, actually bots are the ones that we call like a online robots. I just want to point out that what they call it bots, just in case for somebody who has a question. So we implement those bots, and they're kind of like you can consider being a minions. They're your assistants. And while you're playing the games along with your teams, these bots, the way you program them, the way you actually made them to work along the way on the game, they help with the details. So what the details I can provide, if someone is providing any type of questions, if they're, even if you can actually work on inappropriate responses, they can block those, they can remove the inappropriate responses. If there is someone who's actually more involved, they're giving them a more reward. If somebody gets to different part of the team level of the game, they're providing that level. So you don't have to type it or anything. These bots will take care of you. They can help you with assistance. If someone who has done different meetings, if they have done a little more like a team building event, or they have foster this type of agile games, it might require a little bit of assistance. You want to constantly going back and forth saying, oh, you have 5 points on this, you're doing great, you're doing fantastic, but the bot's actually doing the same for you. Provide the message, they're taking care of, so you can be more focused on the main part of your process along the way with the teams. There's a lot more that's been going on to it. There's a lot of bots out there. The list can go on, and the popular ones that actually we use are the Me6 and Mushroom. So these are the two we have implemented into our server. And initially in the year, early in the year, so right now we're in the holiday season right now, so we're not holding any Agile games. We practice Agile games on our server. So we have folks from different sides of the world. We provided a little event, well, providing where they at, what the rules are, and someone who's going to be facilitating that type of game, and how do we play it. We test the games, how the games would be responsive. If we come across a new game, we'd love to test it, and we play along the way with our low teams as we gather on an event we have going on. For now, for November and December, we do not have any event, but however, for January, we also actually keeping it a little bit light, but February and on, we're going to have our games again to play on. I will be sharing that Discord server with you guys at the end of my session. So that way, if you'd like to join, you'd like to see how we're taking care of our site. It's a little community we've been connected since last year. I think I was introduced to Discord about 2 years ago. So ever since, I've been actually using it as, this has been most of my tool being used with my associates, everyone I've been using. Not on my teams. On my teams, I use it for different type of games if it comes up, but we also use different type of tools we have that's been going on in our organization. Moving on to the next, we have the Discord advantages I want to go over with you guys. As I was actually explaining early on, it's a more flexible and adjusting to fit appropriate teams. And as well as if you want to, if you have 2-3 teams, you can do the breakout for them. You can provide certain type of rooms to be involved, and then what the rules are, who would actually be able to get things going. And the Discord bots can take care of those rooms for you too, once you have them to be programmed in a way to help along with the teams and they're providing their feedback. Maintaining server and rooms are for different processes. There's a lot more flexibility. There's a lot more permission. There's a lot more settings you may came across to help you to adjust this for your games. Even if you don't want to use it for games and just want to use it for regular ceremonies, that's absolutely free to do. It's not basically made to be only for Agile games. We use it for Agile games, but we have other servers we come across that's being used only for communities. If they have questions, if they have anything, challenges they're facing, we want help one another and provide our feedback. It definitely has both, as I mentioned, audio and video support. You can just remove your video and have audio only, or video both have this going on. And one of the great factors about Discord too, just like Zoom does, You can provide any background you have behind you. You can remove your background and minimize your image and put on the side while you're sharing your screen. So that way you can see the person who's presenting as well as sharing their screen along the way. Every effective combination I mean, this is what I'm looking at from Discord, does have most of the features that's been involved with different applications, such as Slack does not have the bots. I'm not sure, I don't think it does. I've never actually came across that myself. But Slack doesn't have bots itself, but bots has been mostly involved. Actually, Caitlin pointed out that Slack does have bots. So I've actually been looking into details on the Slack side, but I've been mostly involved on the Discord a little bit. And it has a little bit, want to point out less delay, but Slack also doesn't have delay, but both are very similar, I would say. And I know for people for pointing out the ones that's been going on from the Discord bots as well as the Slack bots, but they're mostly we've been involved on the Discord and haven't met any delays. I used the Slack before. I did not experience delay on the side, but the Slack, the way their program is, I heard from other folks when they're joining for the first time, it actually kind of confused them a little bit. But Discord does not have that confusion. It's a very simplified UI that for everybody to be able to navigate around, be able to get to the rooms they need to go. And as I point out, it's absolutely free to use, and there is no cost for that. So moving on to next, the exercises, the games, everything we have worked on Agile Games. We have actually the screen here for folks playing games, as well as the one we used was the Starfish. So for Starfish, it's actually just talking about more of keep doing, start doing, stop doing, and less of doing. So this is the Starfish model when it comes to using this game for our Agile retrospective ceremony. So we have actually included that along the way. We played along, and we just mostly want on our own Discord. We test these games on both in person as well as online. So we can see how the responses you would get. Is it more beneficial to be used? So we actually mostly just practice it online too. And I have certain folks here, we have a little meetings once in a while to play these along the way for us to enjoy and share the experience. Maybe we can, once we learn from it, we'll be able to share these with the teams. And most of these one we actually provided, we worked along with the teams. There hasn't been anybody who actually provided confusion they can't get around. There may be a little bit details initially when they're using Discord, but besides that, it's just once we have our rooms and provided rules, it's a lot more easier to navigate. So once we have the navigation part, and you can constantly make this a lot more flexible and change it around along with your either games or ceremonies. And that brings us to the last part. I believe that wraps up our side. I can get to questions. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for attention, listening from the Agile Games all the way to the being used in Discord. I'll let the questions and answering those.
Hey, Amin, there were a couple of questions throughout your presentation. I wanted to see if we could go back to the slide with the list of games. There was a question about the pigs on there.
There it is.
Next, go to the next one.
Is this the one?
I think this is the one that they were referencing. Let me see here. The question was, what are the pig pieces on the Scrum game for?
Oh, the pig pieces. Are they referring to the ballpoint? I'm not following the question. Let me see if I.
It's the prior slide.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
Is this one?
I knew there were pig pieces on this slide. I'm assuming that's what they were talking about.
Yes, that is the one that they're referring to.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out where the pig
There.
pieces.
Yeah, right.
The
On
little
the-
pieces, the literal on the picture.
Oh, right here, the Agile
Yeah,
Scrum
yeah.
game. This is the one, the picture. I see it. So honestly, for this one, I have not played it. I actually came across the image. I took the image, and this is a Scrum game. And the pig pieces this is actually a little bit different ones we use. This is for iteration planning. I have not used this game board myself, and I actually tried to look for it online, and I was not able to come across of it. So answer your question, honestly, I do not know.
Fair enough. There was a request for a demo about the entering the server room or breakout room. Do you have something like that prepared or no?
I do have my server. Actually, let me just see if I can end the slideshow and show you guys our own server. So this is our own server here. We have actually provided this about more than a year ago. We have our general chat that everybody provided are joining us and provide any questions they may have. We have our own game room, which is actually, this is more of a voice game room. We can join as soon as I join, actually show at the bottom, I joined the game room. So I just usually close this. And then we also have a text one. So we join this one as a voice and video type of interaction. And then we also communicate through Agile Gamecom. So this is the communication we come across and chat with one another through our games. If you want to, if we have any type of game we want to create and provide our team breakouts, we include this at the bottom here when we provide it to different type of rooms where we want to be able in the different breakouts. As well as we discuss type of Agile games we come across, we include them in our session. This is just the Agile games, what's new, what's not, and we can practice this in our next session, or what we can do to learn from it, can give us some more details. So these are a list of Agile games we keep here. Something else beside the Agile games, we knowledge sharing. If anybody's studying, we also they're providing their details, as well as for certifications they're working on, any knowledge sharing in general they have, they provide for us in the list here beside the general chat. We provide the different game rooms. We have a lot of folks that's actually joined us from all around the world on this server. As far as modification goes, if I click on the channels, I can go to permissions, how to actually change these to the modification here, as well as invites, interactions, and how to do interaction and create a webhook actually. The channels that's being followed for this, so you can provide integration along with those rooms. And if you want to go a little more details, going over from the server setting, you can actually even make a lot more different type of modifications on this, including the integrations, the moderations, the audio log, as well as the stickers, emojis, or any type of roles you want to. Even you can assign roles along the way to your team. So the roles we have generally is the admin, mod, and bots we have on our server. It's overall just how we approach and modify this for the entire server to everyone to play around.
There is lots of interest in understanding how to get access to the Agile Games server. So someone put a link in the chat. I don't know if that's to your server, but could you validate that and let people know how they can?
I do not know, but I'm going to send an invite to folks because the URL changes all the time. So
that's the one that was on your slide.
That was the one on my slide. Okay. Oh, you put that one. Perfect. I'm just sharing another one with you guys too. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that.
Awesome. There is one other.
One of those.
Oops, sorry. There's one other question on Discord. How would you interact with the Starfish model, or do you?
The Starfish model we interact, it was actually very easy to join. It's very easy, understandable. For the teams, the way we would do it in person, we have it online. So somebody's sharing their screen and going over the Starfish model and describing to the teams, and teams have started responding along the way. But in a funner way, we actually do it, we add a story to it. So we going over, just like the sailing boat, that there's a story to it, how we use it for retrospective, we'd be able to use the Starfish model and in a story way as well. So we can consider each arm or legs or what they're going for. We want to keep the Starfish intact. So how do we actually be able to keep it intact, and what do we need to add along the way on our side?
Cool. Those are all the questions that I captured from the chat. Maybe there are others that would like to unmute and ask a question. How do you enter the server or a breakout room?
So the server is very simplified. Once you click on, I'm not sure if I'm still sharing my screen, but I am sharing. I can see that folks are joining and hopping on the server. As you're clicking on it, I believe, I can't remember the process initially, but it's asking to create an account. Once you create an account, it simply directs you to download. You can actually, it does have both web version as well as downloading the app. either way works. If you like, for me, I downloaded the app and I've been using it ever since. So once you click on the link, it directs you to the app and then just log you into the server right away. And navigating through it, going first on some slide, we do have our announcements we're keeping and welcome and rules. What the rules are here, we provide our rules, as well as we point out that there's no spamming and there's no solicitation, there is not information. This is we want to keep the community pure for everybody to be able to enjoy it. And as well as we provide a different type of room here for how to Discord, give out a lot more information, provide for everybody in case the details they need to navigate around the Discord and they can use the advantages they're not familiar with.
So it looks to me like you just create the rooms, like whoever's the administrator creates the rooms and people join. It's not like Zoom where you'd be in a conference call and then have to create breakout rooms within that call. Is that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
Does that answer your question, Sherry? Okay. Yeah, we're not creating breakout rooms within a conference call like you would do in Zoom or like WebEx. It would be you clicking on the room that you want to enter and being in that room. Can you show them what they click on to enter a room?
Sure. So we have a breakout rooms here. We provided different ones. So if you want to click on there's certain ones we have a permission, such as announcement, as well as welcome rules and how to Discord. These are the team members would not be able to comment, or they can view this, but they won't be able to use these rooms as we provided. So we change the permission on these ones we have. So if you actually just joined us and navigate around, you go to the how to Discord welcome, you notice that you do not be able to comment or do any type of interaction on these pages. However, for certain ones we provided certain rooms specifically for either if you're practicing Agile games, we're maintaining those. So we have the one that's actually text-driven, so we use our text here. And if you want to join the video chat, we join the video chat, we provide that who's actually joined the video chat. And everybody be able to work along this. I'm actually just gonna log out. I know it's gonna make a little echo on the multiple apps I'm actually using. But once you join the game and everybody will join you, and the interesting part about this, you can also schedule your next event. So this is a new feature that's added too. So if you have an Agile Games you want to set up and we want to schedule that, we can schedule this on Discord instead of like creating a different plan and providing it on Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. We can just create it here and it actually reminds you when the event that is coming up. So certain Agile Games even if you want to play us.
I think that did it. Thanks, Amin.
Absolutely.
What other questions are out there?
Based on your,
How about Sherry, then Stephen?
Sure.
just going to ask, based on your expertise, when are games most beneficial?
When are games most beneficial? Honestly, it depends on the teams you have, the individuals you have, how they prefer it. That's the answer I can really give out to. If the teams you're working with and they prefer online, they would enjoy more online. But if you have folks actually working physically, my personal experience is physically, it's wants to be playing like kind of like a board game on a table, all of us together. It's more interaction I can get, but I actually received the same interaction online with the folks that actually prefer playing online too. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll jump in actually on that one as well. A lot of times games are used during retrospectives. So if you're following Agile, the retros are often seen as a spot for games because it helps draw out feedback because people are a little more relaxed. So the other thing I was going to point out is there are a gazillion Discord servers, and it's real easy for you to go in and set up your own. So if you want to go in and experiment and then set one up for your company to use, then you decide what channels are there for voice or for breakout rooms. So you could have one for retro games and then have a game that you're going to play set up in there. And then, as was mentioned, you can share a screen so somebody could pull up Miro or whatever to help facilitate the conversation, but the rest of the team can be on video like you would on Zoom or any of that.
Correct, that's correct. Thank you, Steven. Yes, absolutely. You can create your servers. There's a lot of servers out there. People were being actually using. If you go to the navigation, try to discover. You won't be able to discover all of them. There's so many, and it's mostly the way that actually servers are being involved. It's sending out the invite, and people actually being once they're using different type of messaging, such as we're Zoom right now. I provide a link, and everybody join that and be able to populate one another.
If you look at a lot of like podcasts and stuff too, they'll often list a Discord server where their community meets and talks about the podcast. So that's another way to find good servers to join.
Absolutely. The ones I have here, there's one actually I joined a long time ago. It's a PMP ones. I just go there and answer questions. Folks will study for it just in case they're working on it. Not on project management side, just to have the side that's going for Agile side. So if they have any question, I usually go there and answer their questions. It's a great way to see things in a real life way that's been happening. So you can be able to go and interact with the folks. If it comes up, you'll be able to send a message quick. It's kind of, I would say, the PMP one, I believe someone asked for it being shared. Honestly, I have to contact the sir who's the hosting that, and if I can share that. I'm actually very close with the host on that one, so I don't want just to be sharing it randomly. So I don't mean to populate. So I apologize, Gus, but I do have provided my email. I ask, and then if they're allowing it, I'll be sharing it along with you too. I don't want to see if they're keeping it private or anything. So that's the part I like to keep along with the folks I have here. Any other questions? I do not see any other questions.
Well, thank you, Amin. That was such a great presentation. I feel like we got so much out of it.
Well, thank you, Zamina. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This was great.
I'll be sharing my slide one more time before everybody drop off, so they have my contact information. If you'd like to reach out, feel free to do so. I'll be more than happy to provide my support.
Yay. Thank you.
There we go.
Well, now the only thing that's left is to move on into the holiday season and enjoy your time, everyone.
It's a turkey time.
Thanks.